Welcome to the monthly live Q&A call here in the Basement Dwellers Facebook group. This is a live question and answer call for anybody that's a part of my community who has invested in themselves and purchased a course. This is not available to the public, although it may be streamed by the public. The ability to ask questions remains exclusively with those folks in this community. So today is July 11th, 2025, and I'm coming to you from my basement troll folk cave in Old Lyme, Connecticut, deep in the woods. Actually, it's where the water meets the woods here in Connecticut. It's a cool scene. We got pine trees right up to sandy beaches. It's a vibe, that's for sure. And no to any of the folks who asked if I was from Seattle because of my t-shirt. I just pick up mementos when I go on tour. We've got Bob Dylan, Radiohead, and Neil Young joining us again today. As always, my co-hosts, my Andy Richter, to my Conan O'Brien. So we've got some great questions, and I'm excited to dive in. I got them via email. But before we do, I want to make a quick announcement here. So in the first week of August, I'm going to be doing a free webinar open to the public called the Travis Picking Shortcut. Learn the 3 steps that make you sound like a full band on guitar. And this is a live webinar that teaches beginner and returning guitarists, people that have maybe taken a break for a couple of years. They don't want to call themselves beginners because they've owned and played a guitar for years, but maybe they take breaks for a year or two here and there or a couple months, and they're still feeling locked in the beginner's box. It's for those folks, and this is how to master that foundational Travis picking pattern with confidence. And you're going to be able to do it in 1 hour. You're going to go from that like clumsy or confused feeling about finger picking to confidently being able to play the core Travis picking pattern, which is going to unlock that classic folk singer-songwriter guitar sound in just a single satisfying session. So I'm really excited to have you join me. And for those of you who are like, what the fuck is Travis picking? It's this sort of vibe. It's this iconic right hand or picking hand technique. And it gives you the sound of 2 guitars playing at once because you've got bass and high treble stuff. This is the exact foundation that I teach in my folk guitar masterclass. The masterclass is the 5 pillars of folk guitar, and one of the pillars is Travis picking. And this workshop that I'm going to be doing is going to teach the exact foundation that I teach in the folk guitar masterclass Travis picking pillar, but you're going to get it for free. So I really hope you can join. There's going to be a link somewhere below this video to reserve your spot. Again, it's free, and would love to have you there and meet you. Okay, so let's dive into the questions here. I got 2 of these questions were without names and emails that I couldn't figure out names, so my apologies that I can't name you by name. And for anybody listening, when you submit a question, if you want, feel free to submit your name and where you're from and any other information you want to tell me, like if you are in a band or if you have something that you're working on or anything. Just give me a little context. But so this one person said, is it too late to get good if I'm starting over at 41? And so basically I kind of just like reframed this into a different kind of question. So I'm going to answer it as this. Well, first of all, no, it's not too late. Absolutely not. But I'm going to reframe this question as what I would do if I was starting over at 40 plus years old. And this, is not for, exclusively for 40-year-olds. This definitely applies to folks who are 50, 60, 70 plus. Okay, so the first thing that I would do is I would identify my goal. So, like, meaning, what is it that you want to achieve with your guitar playing? We all have a reason that we got into guitar. Sometimes it's not as specific as it really needs to be in order to make quick progress. So is your goal to cover other people's songs in the comfort of your own home and just kind of create a cool environment for your family to listen to music? But you might have no intention of getting out there and sharing your music. Or do you want to write your own music and be able to accompany yourself as, solo singer-songwriter playing sets around your local community and build a local following? Or are you hot on the trail of a national career? Are you really looking to give it a full go and hit the road and dedicate all your time and significant portion of resources to building a career that can earn income? So there's going to be different approaches to getting good fast, depending on what your intention is. And speaking of intention, the next step is to identify your level of intention. So how badly do you want this? Are you cool with it sort of being like a slow burn, or are you like, I need to achieve this? Like, rank yourself from level 1 to 10. And if you're level 3, then, you can kind of take it easy. The path that I'm about to lay out will still work for you. But if you're, say, a level 8, 9, or 10, then the path that I'm going to lay out for you, it means that you follow it and you are being responsible with your time, and you're being disciplined, and you're, really honing in on this as opposed to maybe watching more television or sleeping in or that sort of stuff. So first is identify your goal. Second is identify your level of commitment, or I call it your level of intention. And the next step would be to identify your opportunities for weekly playing time. So take a look at your weekly schedule. And if you are the type of person that has a routine schedule that it doesn't change at all, identify those blocks where you can play, where you can practice, where you can focus on this goal. And if you don't have any time, locate blocks of time that are currently being used for things that are not important to your goal. Again, maybe watching TV. Like, you would be amazed by how much time we spend looking at our phones at night after the kids go to bed or whatever, or watching TV to unwind. These are your moments to pursue your goal, to pursue your dream. So find those times within your week. So on every Sunday, I go through my schedule and I think about the times that I have in my upcoming week where I can get these things done. So on a Sunday night, go through your upcoming week and put in the block times to practice. All right. Don't look at your schedule and be like, okay, I'm going to practice on Monday at 4 p.m. and leave it at that. Put it in your calendar, block it out so that you have that time there. When that time arrives, you know that you're supposed to be doing this. So see if you can block out a couple hours. And I got to say that you will make more progress by being consistent, even if it's at a lower level, than you will be if you go in sort of binge spurts. So, like, if you're the type of person that feels guilty and then you put in 8 hours and you realize that wasn't sustainable and it fucked your week all up, the next week you're not going to do it. So what I'm saying is, it's better to put in 2 hours, and over the course of a month you'll get the 8 hours, as opposed to, binging 1 week, realizing that it just messed your whole schedule up and you're never going to do it again, and months go by. And so less is more, turtle in the hair. It's better to take it slow and consistent. Consistency adds up over time. Listen, if you do this for 2 years, imagine where you're going to be if you can put in a couple hours a week. So the next step, this is where we get out into the world. All right. So the first three things are all internal. So set a goal, set a level of intention, and then find your opportunities for weekly playing time and put them in your calendar. Those are the first three things. All right. Those are all internal. You need to do those things. So these next couple get you out into the world. So the next thing I would suggest is finding a program. So it could be a course. It could be it could be maybe you're studying an artist and you're just going to do it. You're just going to learn all their songs. But what I mean is finding a program means that you're not scattered. You're not sort of grasping in the dark for what material to practice. You are sitting down with intention, and you know exactly what you're going to play each day. That's why I recommend a program. I've got a good one. I'm not going to be an asshole and say that there aren't a ton of other great programs out there. So look to see what programs are focusing on the music you love, whether or not the instructor has a good vibe. And I'm talking about DIY courses, really. You could find... I'm talking about DIY courses. It could be a music book. I don't know. But you just want to have something to focus on every time you sit, as opposed to sitting down with a blank slate and going, I don't know what the hell I should be playing. That's a recipe for procrastination. Okay? So identify your goal, identify your level of intention, identify your opportunities for weekly playing time, then find a program. All right, so the next step after that is to find some sort of social accountability safety net. Okay, so don't silo. Don't go this alone. If it's just you, your chances of procrastination or giving up are so much higher. So my suggestion is to find a collaborator, start a band, join a song circle, become a regular at an open mic series, get a singer-songwriter coach, join a group program, something that's going to have you interfacing with other humans where you all are aware of the common goal. And so if you show up without having achieved the common goal, there's that feeling of like, I didn't do my part. For many of us, including me, that helps me so much. Okay, so that's the next step. That's step 5, to find some sort of social accountability safety net. And then the last thing that I want to say, because all of this stuff is so type A, just organized, and it might seem to some listeners that I'm saying like, remove all the joy and just treat it like a job. So my last point is to remember to have fun, or as one of my singer-songwriter mentorship clients calls it, squirreling, meaning remember to save time to be distracted and attracted by to random fun things. Okay, so I always say that improving in music requires wearing 2 hats. You need to wear your student hat, or your getting down to business hat, those are synonymous, and you need to wear your artist hat, or your having fun hat. All right, so, and not to say that you can't mix those 2 vibes and have fun while you're working, or take your artist stuff seriously, but remember that music is about playing and it's about having fun. So if you are only in this like, I need to get this done, I need to be organized and rigid, you're going to zap all of the joy out of it and you're going to quit. So remember to squirrel. Remember to wear the artist hat, and to do things that amaze you, and things that are fun, and things that are not part of your program, so that you can still have inspiration and joy. Hey, quick pause on our regularly scheduled program for this brief announcement. If you're this far in, if you're still watching, if you're still listening, then that tells me you're not fucking around. You're serious about bringing your singer-songwriter guitar game to another level. So I want to tell you about the Folk Guitar Masterclass, which is my full curriculum to go from bland beginner to that hurts so good folk sound with a roadmap that guarantees that every single technique is covered. It's a course with a monthly group live support for singer-songwriter guitarists who want to master the 5 essential pillars of folk guitar: expressive pick strumming, folk ornamentations, Travis picking, folk chord voicings, and expressive finger strumming. So you can put all those together and play like your singer-songwriter heroes to achieve that sound that hurts so good. In addition to that step-by-step curriculum that leaves nothing out, you also get access to weekly mentorship calls where we go deep on subjects like guitar technique, how to build a live audience, songwriting tips, and just so much more. Not to mention what I think is the coolest part about it, access to the Folk Guitar Masterclass community where we've made some great friends, we support each other, and just have a great time. So if you want to break out of the beginner's box and play like your singer-songwriter heroes by mastering the techniques that matter most without any of the guesswork, take a look at the Folk Guitar Masterclass at folkguitarmasterclass.com. All right, this is Jeff from Massachusetts. Is it okay to copy chord progressions from famous songs? Without the context, I'm assuming you mean for like music you're going to release and music you're going to promote. If that's not the case and you're just having fun and you aren't planning on really putting some promotional muscle behind it, then 100% absolutely it's okay to copy anything. If you are planning to promote and make a bunch of noise about your music, I'm not going to say that no, it's not okay to use chord progressions from other songs, but there are a couple caveats. Okay, so first I just want to mention that in the musical tradition, it's very common to use chord progression templates, and that the originality of your music, it comes from the intention of what you're doing, and the choices you make around the stylings of some of the top end elements, not just the basic block chord changes. If you think about the blues progressions, they are all the same progression. The 1, the 4, back to the 1, and then the 5, the 4. Probably 1,000 songs written a year with that same chord progression. So that's just one example of a chord template that gets used over and over again, but it'll sound different depending on which artist is doing it, what the lyrics are, what the melodies are. Everything about it will make it sound different. So these are all arguments for saying don't worry about using common chord progressions. Another example would be the 1-5-6-4 progression from Let It Be. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. What's the wagon wheel starts on that too? Rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, any way you feel. Same exact chord progression, but when you listen to one and the other, you're probably not thinking, these are a rip-off of each other. So there are common chord progressions that you don't need to shy away from. You can just use them over and over again. So, but directly copying a song, the chord progression, it can be helpful if you're just trying to learn structure and learn how songs fit together. And again, if you're not really actively promoting it. But I would say it's limiting if you never leave that phase because you never find your voice. And if you're directly copying the specifics of the way that the chord progression is delivered and not just the general chord shapes, that's usually not a good idea. Like, for example, Karma Police by Radiohead. There are so many specifics being delivered in that chord progression that if you copied it exactly, there's no way it's not going to disturb your listener and just be like, what the hell are you doing? However, the chord progression itself is not so unique that it should be copyrighted and no one can ever play that combination of chords again. If you played it differently, did I fuck that up? So it goes A minor, D, E minor. right, so that's the same chord progression as Karma Police. But you notice that I'm doing finger picking instead of isolating a bass note and going into strumming. It doesn't have the inversions, this D over F sharp. It doesn't have the isolated bass notes and the walk-ups. So those are all top level specifics that will give a song its characteristics. And if you copy those as well as the chords, you're going to get yourself into trouble. But the chords themselves, there are only 7 chords in a key. So with all the thousands of songs being written, it's just inevitable that similar chord progressions are going to be used for songs. So I wouldn't worry about it. So my suggestion is use whatever progression you want, but just build your own flavor into it, from the voicings you use, inversions, the strumming, the picking, the timing, the dynamics, the feel. There are so many ways that you can get your own voice into it. And for those of you that are interested in songwriting, keep an eye out. I would say it's going to be a couple months away at this point, but I've got the Songwriter Theory Shortcut coming. It's a course to go from zero theory knowledge to writing bold and emotional and sophisticated chord changes using the same tools that like the Beatles or Paul Simon would use. And you can learn it in just a week. So keep an eye out for the Singer-Songwriter Theory Shortcut. All right. Great question. Thank you for that. And so I'm going on to number 3 here. I just got back to playing after 20 years because a buddy asked me to form a duo. So how do I make my guitar playing sound not so boring? Okay, so this is an excellent question, and it's actually one that some of my favorite students in the Folk Guitar Masterclass have asked before, which is the reason they joined, because that whole program is about adding that next level sound, so that when you play as a solo guitarist, that it doesn't just sound like a wall of strumming, an undifferentiated sort of wall. That there's what I like to think about as creating the feel and the sound of a full band in a single guitar. So like the difference is going from we could use Karma Police as a great example. So if we didn't have the elements to make that sound like a full band, it would sound like this. That sounds cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but for a 45-minute set, the lack of dynamics there is going to make it a big drag for the listeners. So what I'm saying in terms of adding elements to make it sound more like a full band, it could transform it into like something like this. Okay, so let me break down some of the things that I was doing and some of the other things that you can do to give more of that full band sound with just one guitar. So the first side of it is in the strumming hand expression. So for a lot of us, that's going to be our right hand, but of course this applies to lefty guitarists as well. So strumming variation is everything. So are you picking versus strumming? There is low-high strumming, where it gives sort of the vibe of a kick and a snare drum, where we isolate low strings to high strings. Here out it's low, high. So again, that removes that wall of sound of all 6 strings coming at your ears all the time. It breaks it down into low, high, and it creates a nice differentiation that gives our ears a break. Another thing could be isolating single bass notes. You could play melodies while you're strumming. You could mimic a kick snare drum pattern if you are playing with your hands. I call it expressive finger strumming. It's Pillar 5 in the Folk Guitar Masterclass, and so this is where we have different techniques that mimic our kick and a snare. So kick, kick, snare. You hear this fingernail snare here, and percussive thumb clicks. Right? And then on top of all of that, dynamic variation for sure. Really dive deep into dynamic variation, like exaggerate the shit out of it. You know that it's like feel like it's riding a wave of loudness. Right, and that will create a ton of expression, and in your words, make your playing not sound boring. So that is your strumming hand or picking hand. Now let's move on to our chord hand expression. So one of the things that you can do that adds a lot is drones, either tonic or dominant drones. Adds a nice sort of legato, sustaining feel. Okay, so another thing is inversions and bass melodies. So instead of playing C, G to A minor, you might create a bass melody using inversions. That middle chord is a G chord in its first inversion. All right, and then the next thing would be ornamentations, hammer-ons, pull-offs, diatonic dyads. And overall, the intention is to think like a band with one instrument. Okay, so a band has a percussionist, and it's got somebody laying down some kind of bass, and then you've got the guitar as sort of the supporting instrument as well. But so when you are a solo guitarist, see if you can incorporate some kind of percussion element, and it doesn't need to be fingernail snares. Although it can be, and that feels really great. It could also be low-high strumming. Kick, snare, kick, snare. And bass melodies. And of course, dynamics. All right, that was an awesome question, and that is sort of like the goal of most singer-songwriters, you know, to feel like when you play by yourself that the instrument is creating the sound of a full band in some way. And we're not talking about this like virtuoso, new agey, you know, sort of tapping stuff. That stuff is wild. It's awesome. Respect to the people that can do that. But that's not the genre that we're talking about. We're talking about singer-songwriter, folk music, and being able to hold down a groove with bass melodies and incorporating these other sort of rhythm section elements while you're playing is going to help make your playing really interesting, and it's going to keep people engaged for the entire 45-minute set, which is what you need, you know. And I also want to encourage you to take a look at what your favorite artists do when they do solo sets. People do this all the time, you know, even longer, 2 45-minute sets, 2-hour sets with just an acoustic and their vocals. And if you check out the professionals that are doing that, look to see what they're doing. They're not strumming through the entire thing the entire time. Most of them aren't, anyways. All right, so that is it for our monthly Q&A. So we'll be back next month on, I don't know what it's going to be. I'll make some noise about it. But again, I want to remind you that in the first week of August, I am going to be hosting my free live webinar called The Travis Picking Shortcut. Learn 3 steps that make you sound like a full band on guitar. We're going to be breaking down the iconic Travis picking pattern so that you can go from zero knowledge all the way to being able to play this in 60 minutes. And I'm really stoked for that. So I will have links to that somewhere around here, and I'll be making noise so that you can sign up and secure your spot for that. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for your questions, and I'm excited to see you in the community. And I will see you next time, next month, on the monthly live Q&A call here in the Basement Dwellers community. All right, this is James, signing off.